Starting in 2008 with Iron Man, the Marvel Cinematic Universe now consists of 34 movies and 11 shows. Wow. And in those 16 years, this one of a kind world of movies has been through its ups and its downs. When it was at its peak, the general public seemed to sing its praises for the MCU. But now, it seems so quickly they've turned their back on it. But why? Are these movies really worse off than they were before? To find this out, I'm going to go through all 5 phases of the MCU and pick 2 movies from each, the highest rated and the lowest rated according to IMDb. As I do this, I want to gauge the quality and the tone and see how much they've shifted throughout time. Let's get into it. Phase 1: Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The First Avenger, and The Avengers. The highest rated movie of Phase 1 is The Avengers. No shock there. The Avengers is really the first of its kind, the big team up movie filled with iconic splash page imagery. I think the third act battle gets a pass as the first one to do it. Joss Whedon also does a great job of balancing so many characters and finding fun ways for them to interact and conflict with each other. This one's special, even if some of the cinematography dates it. The Avengers, 8 out of 10. Now, the lowest rated of Phase 1 is Iron Man 2. Now, this one's rough. The good is that Downey is sharp as always, and it looks really slick for a 2 year turnaround from the first Iron Man. But there's a lot more bad in this one. The 2 year turnaround also means a weak script with poorly written drama. It's also pretty clunky in the middle, with Whiplash taking a back seat, Tony fumbling around, getting drunk, and creating an element. Not to mention throwing in Black Widow just to spend all her screen time sexualizing her. The movie feels just haphazardly put together. Iron Man 2, 4 out of 10. And that brings us into Phase 2 with Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. The highest rated movie of Phase 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Just when the MCU seemed to be going in circles, James Gunn's Guardians released, and it was cosmic and wildly fun and yet deeply emotional. He turned this gang of nobodies into huge stars because the movie was simply great. The Guardians of the Galaxy have a special place in my heart, and in my opinion, they are the 3 best movies in the MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy, 10 out of 10. The lowest rated of Phase 2 is Thor the Dark World. I immediately knew going into this video that this one would make the cut. And on rewatch, it is pretty bad. Compared to the movies before it, it looks busy and yet stale and unsaturated. Loki's redemption arc and Thor's denying the throne arc are half baked because they have to spend the middle portion of the movie saving Natalie Portman. This one is not offensively bad, but boringly so. Thor the Dark World, 2 out of 10. Phase 3 took a big step in output with Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Spider Man Far From Home. The highest rated of Phase 3 is Avengers Infinity War. This and Endgame are neck and neck, but Infinity War won out. This team up is really special. It's the culmination of a decade of storytelling, and you can feel it in every moment. One of the biggest movies of all time, and it manages to balance it all pretty well. Like I said, this one's special. Avengers Infinity War, 9 out of 10. The lowest rated movie of Phase 3 is Captain Marvel. This one is interesting because it's sandwiched between the 2 highest rated of the phase, that being Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Sadly, I do find it quite boring more than anything. While I get the message here involves Carol Danvers gaining agency in her story, that just means she's a blank slate to begin with. And when that happens, it's hard to attach to her. That being said, I love the retro vibe, and seeing Nick Fury at this point in his and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s past, well, it's pretty fun. Captain Marvel, 5 out of 10. Phase 4: Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. The highest rated movie of Phase 4 is Spider-Man No Way Home. There's few movies I've been as excited for as I was for No Way Home. I heard all the rumors of Toby and Andrew, and I was all in. And it paid off. The reveal was special. The theater erupted. Not only that, they provided real meaning to the story. They helped usher Tom Holland into the with great power comes great responsibility kind of Spider Man that is so recognizable. Another really special movie Spider Man No Way Home, 9 out of 10. The lowest rated movie of Phase 4 is Thor Love and Thunder. I've been a huge fan of Taika Waititi ever since Jojo Rabbit back in 2019, so I definitely take more to the humor in this than most people seem to. I appreciate the color in this one, and Christian Bale is cool. I do wish this would take itself more seriously, though. Don't get me wrong, I think there's all the room for comedy in the superhero genre, but I just need more with these characters, especially seeing as it's likely the last solo Thor movie we'll get to see. Thor Love and Thunder, 6 out of 10. Phase 5 Ant Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America, New World Order, and Thunderbolts. And of course, those last two won't be considered. The highest rated movie of Phase 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm going to get right to it. This is my favorite movie in the MCU, right up there with Volume 1. James Gunn is an incredible filmmaker who injected this with all the heart and sincerity that's possible with a superhero flick. I truly believe he knows exactly where to push the genre and what it can allow for. It's epic and beautiful and will make you sob. It is honestly an easy score. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 10 out of 10. The lowest rated movie of Phase 5 is The Marvels. It's important to note that this is by far the lowest in the MCU, currently sitting at a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb. The Marvels is, well, not great, but definitely not as bad as people say. I actually defend this one as a pretty innocent body swap comedy. It's fun, but also not much more. The edit is often bad, and the third act falls flat. The Marvels, 4 out of 10. So, when doing this, I omitted the TV shows because the purpose of this video is to go back to the beginning, and those only go back a few years. And also, who has time to watch all those shows? Come on. And it's important to note the flaws in this study of mine. So while doing this, I'm only taking the extremes, the highs and the lows. I obviously, as a college student, don't have time to watch all 34 movies in the MCU. Between the highs and the lows is a lot of in between. And I can't speak for the mean quality, but I can speak for the quality and the tones of the best and the worst. So, in what ways have they changed, and in what ways have they not? Watching through the highest rated movies, it's become clear that the general public typically gravitates towards the bigger, team up movies that each phase leads up to. What did this selection tell me, and what did I learn? I think I learned that these movies aren't predicated necessarily on story, and more on getting characters into specific moments. This rule goes for each one, save for the Guardians. When I think about the Avengers movies, I go to the Hulk transforming in Avengers, Thor arriving in Wakanda in Infinity War, and Captain America holding Mjolnir in Endgame. In No Way Home, I think about Toby and Andrew walking out of their portals. As a testament to James Gunn, the Guardians movies are saved from this and are truly character focused and are driven by choices and feeling. This isn't to call these team up movies bad. I mean, you can look at my reviews. I really like all of these movies. I think it's just a symptom of the genre that can either work really well or fall flat. And Marvel has been lucky that in these higher reviewed movies, these big moments typically work. So, in terms of quality, over time, they haven't changed much. They all succeed and fail where the others do. But in terms of tone, this one was surprising. As I moved through each phase of the higher rated movies, I found that these only became more intense and more emotional. Avengers Endgame and Guardians 3 are deeply emotional. The whole first act of Endgame is dedicated to the grief and loss that each character is experiencing. And of course, Guardians 3 is an absolute emotional roller coaster of creation and abuse. These are ideas not even poked at in something like The Avengers all the way back in 2012. When spanning this decade of movies, it's really easy to see how these movies have aged up and are still yet accessible. So, what about the lower rated movies on this list? Watching these, thinking about quality, I think there's not much of a shift here. They each suffer in similar ways. muddled cinematography, a basic third act, and a lack of an interesting villain, I'm not covering any new ground here. But with tone, these lower movies shifted in the opposite way than the higher rated ones. Where those got increasingly intense, these go instead for more humor and color. The stakes never feel as intense here, and the drama is often undercut with comedy. This increases as we go from the list too. From Iron Man 2 to Thor Love and Thunder and the Marvels is a pretty jarring movement of tones. Now, is this a bad thing? Um, I think I might be in the minority here, but not inherently. I think what would be best is instead a balance of the somewhat self serious and rigid earlier films and the more colorful, flimsy later MCU flicks that appear on this list. So, overall, is the doom and gloom around the MCU just an overreaction? I think yes and no, all depending on who you are. To some, like me, who just enjoy living in these worlds with the color and the fun, these later movies are fine. But I understand completely those that preferred the earlier phases of the MCU and their more serious takes. Only time will tell the direction Marvel ends up going, and I think Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts will be interesting indications of this. So I know this video is a lot more straightforward than my usual ones, but honestly, I just really love the superhero genre and the MCU. I've grown up with it, and I've been thinking a lot about the shift in conversation around them. So I wanted to get my thoughts out there. Anyway, bye y'all.